morning. As was mentioned, the title of our panel is Reconciling SAATM with Strategic Plans. In our discussion, we hope to go beyond the usual discussion of SAATM and look at issues more from a competitive or strategic perspective. In other words, how airlines will have to adjust their strategies in light of the new competitive realities given the introduction of SAATM. If we step back for a moment and we look at the state of African aviation from a high-level perspective, we see that the industry faces major challenges. But on the other hand, it has major opportunities in front of it. The challenges are well known to this group, and S.G. Berthet was just enumerating some of them. But from a macro perspective, there's the lack of profitability, limited connectivity, fragmented market, the heavy penetration of foreign carriers in intercontinental traffic. The micro challenges we've heard about as well, the high taxes and charges, high fuel costs, unfavorable regulatory environment. And yet the industry has major opportunities in the future. The demographics are very favorable with a growing middle class. These are growing economies. And there's significant growth in African aviation projected over the next 20 to 30 years. For a brief snapshot of the status of SAATM, 32 states, African states, have adopted it. 18 have entered into a memorandum of implementation. 9 countries are ready to proceed with immediate implementation. So it's the old story, is the glass half empty or half full? And in this panel, we'll discuss obstacles to increased adoption and implementation and ways to increase that adoption and implementation. We'll also discuss alliances and other means of cooperation and the growth of hubs. Apart from the changes that will be introduced by SAATM, the ground is shifting under African airlines as it is under airlines around the world. New technologies are being introduced, and we hear the theme airline of the future being discussed. New technologies like AI, big data, blockchain, drones, digitalization. In my corner of the world, restructuring, airlines need to deal with the problems that they face today so that they can move forward and remain competitive. So in this panel, we'll discuss how the airlines could adjust to SAATM and other forces that are at play to adapt to a new competitive landscape. We have a very distinguished panel consisting of 7 CEOs. Their bios are all in the booklet, and we're fortunate that we can draw on their expertise as we explore these various issues. The first topic of discussion will be SAATM itself, and I'll direct this to Rui from TAG. Why has SAATM not been more widely adopted by African states? And why has implementation by African states that have adopted SAATM been slower than might have been expected?
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Good morning. This is a very good question, but I'm not representing a state. I'm representing my airline. So there are many reasons. First of all, I think that states have to understand the difference between protectionism and support. Protectionism is an obstacle for some states to go through the SAATM, while support is good. So this difference is very important. Secondly, I also think that the major organizations like AFRAA and IATA have to take an important role to promote the SAATM to the states and show the good results of the airlines that already are within SAATM to see the before and after. It is very important.
Okay, very good. The next question is, what steps should African airlines and other African aviation stakeholders, including civil aviation authorities, African airport authorities, etc., be taking to prepare for the more widespread adoption and fuller implementation of SAATM? Yvonne, would you like to take a crack at that?
Sure. Well, if the assumption is that SAATM will increase demand, lower fares, so there'll be more people willing to travel by air, then from the airline side, us as airlines should be prepared in terms of our fleet, in terms of having adequate skilled resources, and especially in the technical field, pilots, technicians, engineers. We should also be looking very seriously about partnerships and alliances amongst the different airlines in order to manage the potential traffic growth. From the airport side, airports should be prepared in terms of adequate infrastructure. That's a major challenge in a lot of airports in Africa, so this should be a key focus area. For the civil aviation authorities, they should be prepared to grow in line with the airlines as well in order to ensure that the level of safety is kept at a maximum. And generally, states should be prepared with the government policies that encourage free movement of people and goods. We can't open skies and close borders, so in terms of the visa policies, they should be in line to encourage that movement, as well as having adequate infrastructure within the country to support the movement of people.
Thank you. This is a question for Ibrahima from Air Senegal. What do you see as the major strategic challenges facing African aviation in general and your airline in particular?
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank our host and the AFRAA first, because we are the newcomer, and in our tradition, we need to thank the elders. And from this point, I would like to switch to French, if you don't mind. Merci beaucoup. Vous m'avez posé une question sur les challenges. Les challenges auxquels font face les compagnies, en particulier la mienne. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes une compagnie nouvellement créée. Nous avons juste 18 mois d'existence. C'est le cas de beaucoup de compagnies qui sont souvent dans des situations de démarrage pendant de longues années. Et le challenge pour ce type de compagnie, c'est vraiment de passer au-delà de cette phase de démarrage, vers une phase un peu plus stabilisée où ces compagnies arrivent à accéder à une certaine rentabilité et une soutenabilité. C'est ce franchissement qui est le plus gros challenge, en tout cas pour nous, au niveau de Air Sénégal et de la sous-région, passer de compagnies qui sont en phase de démarrage ou d'amorçage, ce qui peut durer parfois pendant quelques années, voire quelques décennies, à l'étape de compagnie qui se stabilise et qui se développe. Ça rejoint le point sur le SAATM, que je voulais aborder très rapidement. Au niveau des États, la perception que j'ai, c'est que le SAATM, c'est quelque chose qui est présenté comme un objectif. Alors que le SAATM, c'est un voyage, it's a journey. Et pour faire ce voyage, les États ont besoin d'être assurés, ont besoin d'être accompagnés par des compagnies qui, au niveau business, sauront trouver les arguments et le chemin pour amener cette ouverture au niveau de leur pays et de leur espace aérien au bénéfice de nos passagers. Parce que notre deuxième plus gros challenge, c'est que le niveau de trafic n'est pas suffisamment développé. Voici ce que je voulais partager pour démarrer. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Now we'll shift to another topic, strategic planning and airline of the future. And the first question will go to Abdel from Royal Air Maroc. What type of strategic planning, if you can discuss that, does your airline undertake on a regular basis in order to put your airline in a more favorable competitive position in the medium to long term? And how is the strategic planning function structured and carried out at Royal Air Maroc?
If I may, I'm going to also switch to French. That's going to be easier for me to find my words. Well, first, thank you for the invitation. And before answering the question, je voudrais d'abord aller directement et parler du SAATM en quelques secondes. La population africaine représente à peu près 16% de la population mondiale. 16%. Le flux, le trafic entre l'Afrique et le reste du monde, et en Afrique, ne représente pas plus de 3%. Il y a clairement un déficit de connectivité important, et ce qui veut dire tout simplement que le modèle actuel ne marche pas. Si nous sommes à ces niveaux, c'est que nous devons trouver un nouveau modèle. Peut-être que SAATM va répondre à ce besoin ou pas. Maintenant, il est important d'aller vers du changement. Et ma conviction, c'est que nous ne pouvons pas rester avec un niveau de connectivité aussi faible où l'écrasante majorité est prise par des compagnies européennes. Nous devons nous développer nous-mêmes et par nous-mêmes. Nous avons eu des crises ces dernières années, la dernière crise étant Ebola, où toutes les compagnies ont quitté le Libéria, sauf une, Royal Air Maroc. Nous ne sommes pas restés pour gagner de l'argent puisque les avions étaient vides. Nous sommes restés parce qu'on ne pouvait pas laisser une région sans aucune connectivité. Et seule une compagnie africaine peut comprendre cette nécessité de rester solidaire parce que ça peut nous arriver nous tous. Donc aujourd'hui, nous devons trouver le moyen de nous développer tous ensemble. Il y a un marché, il y a des compagnies, qu'elles soient nouvellement créées comme Air Sénégal ou plus anciennes. Il y a des compagnies aujourd'hui qui ont des fondamentaux solides, qui aujourd'hui respectent toutes les règles de sécurité et de safety, qui ont des hubs performants. Tout à l'heure, Abdelrahman a parlé des hubs d'Addis Abeba, de Cairo, de Casablanca, de Nairobi, et ainsi de suite. Donc nous avons aujourd'hui la capacité d'aller de l'avant, et je pense qu'il faut qu'on se serre les coudes et qu'on y aille. Il ne faut pas avoir honte, il faut être ambitieux, et nous n'avons à rougir de personne. Alors pour répondre à votre question précisément de Airline of the Future, je pense que chaque compagnie doit trouver son business model. Ce concept de Airline of the Future est assez galvaudé. Hein. C'est un peu la nouvelle, je dirais, la nouvelle tendance mondiale. Mais je dirais chacun doit adopter son modèle. Notre modèle à nous est d'aller vers vraiment du développement. C'est de se dire qu'aujourd'hui, nous avons mis du temps à décoller. Ça a pris du temps, ça a pris des décennies. Mais aujourd'hui, nous avons pu décoller. Il est temps pour nous de nous développer. Le Maroc est la première destination touristique africaine. Donc, au niveau du tourisme, voilà, nous sommes une très grosse destination touristique. Il faut qu'au niveau de l'aérien aussi, Casablanca soit l'un des 2-3 plus gros hubs du continent. Et pour cela, nous devons, nous équiper, aussi bien en infrastructure qu'en avion. Nous devons nous digitaliser. Donc, nous avons créé une Digital Factory qui nous permet de sortir chaque mois une nouvelle application, un nouvel outil, à même de générer une qualité de service particulière pour nos passagers. Nous devons améliorer notre qualité de service, donc voilà, évoluer, et les rankings comme Skytrax sont un bon outil pour nous calibrer par rapport aux autres. Et nous devons réfléchir en termes de globalisation parce que nous ne sommes plus tout seuls. Voilà.
Thank you. Sebastian, we hear the phrase airline of the future. What does that mean to you, and what should the airlines be doing to embrace the new technologies that are available?
Wow, thank you. I'm not sure I have the answer, but I'll try. You know, airlines of the future. It's Yes, as was just said, it's a really broad topic. I think that the first thing, I mean, I'm drawing this down to African continent, is that we need to continue to exist and operate, because actually one of the big issue is that you have a lot of new airlines coming. Some of them are younger than 18 months in the sub-Saharan region where I operate. So airlines of the future in Africa, if you allow me to narrow down the question, is simply first to exist and to be there. Particularly in a case like my airline, is also to be not to be the synonym of financial troubles all the time, but find a model in which we can operate in a more or less sustainable way. So that's number one. Then of course we have a certain luck, or we are lucky because in this phase of initial growth we can jump stages. So what happens in Europe, all the debates that Europe has, US has, we can go ahead. I'm particularly thinking about the two main topics, of course. It's environment protection with all the CO2 debate and what can we do to be at the forefront of taking this into consideration now, knowing that now we are ordering the planes that will be arriving in 2 years and we're going to be growing the network in 4 years. So that's number one. And two, of course, yes, African society, if there is no African society, there are many Africas, yeah, because the continent is, what we keep forgetting, so big that it can contain few Europes inside. But it's really surf on this digitalization, because Africa has maybe the lowest GDP per capita, but the highest digitalization. People are not afraid of using the mobile phone or all these technologies. So actually what you have to operate in all their economy, the shift, here it's done naturally. So that's actually a big chance for the airlines, is to be much more digital, because the airline of the future is all about data. Yeah. I mean, actually, it's not about the airline, it's about the passengers. My favorite theory is that the airline of the future doesn't even need planes. Because why to have planes if you have passengers and data about them? Plane you can always hire. And actually, the biggest airlines today will be soon Amazon, because they started selling tickets. So that's really scares me, yes. That's when I see airline of the future, I see all this GAFA threat. When they get into trips, given the number of data, they know our passengers better than we do, because they know what they read, what they buy, which t-shirt they like. They know more about their families, about their patterns of payments. We don't know all of this. So the moment you kick in all the tickets, yeah, when you buy a t-shirt, why don't you buy an air ticket? And on top, I book you a hotel, and then I can, by the way, I can also give you currency, local currency, because I operate a small financial account. So this is what we should be afraid, but not only us, all the industry, that we can be overtaken by people who, like Airbnb has, I don't know how many rooms, but they don't own a single, Booking doesn't own a hotel, and they know everything about your patterns. So that's what I'm afraid in terms of airlines of the future. But for the moment, I'm focusing on continue existing. Yeah.
Yes, that ties into the idea that the airlines have to get their house in order to move into the future. They have to, but also, as you're saying, the data is an indispensable commodity, essentially, right now, or resource. Just as oil in an earlier day was indispensable, today it's data. The next topic is connectivity, hubs, and cooperation. This is a question for Solmas. In addition to greater liberalization of the African aviation market through the adoption and implementation of SAATM, what other measures or initiatives could lead to greater connectivity across the African continent?
Thank you. I think I will catch up on the couple of previous questions.
Sure.
The first one is in regards of SAATM. SAATM, as we said, is an objective, and the one-size-fits-all will not do for each of us. So everyone will have to accommodate SAATM and get there when they feel they can get there. Just to remind our colleagues here and friends, in fact, if we look at the Mauritian economy, the contribution of travel, tourism, direct, indirect, and catalytic represent 23.6% of our GDP. Can we afford open everything, and what will happen? So we can't do that in that manner. There is really a way to do it, and we are ready to do it, but it has to be something which is pretty much adapted to the country. So one size fits all, it doesn't work. So that's the first comment I would like to share. Secondly, we were talking about, travelers of the future, or the future airline. Future airline would be, from my point of view, one of the safest airlines, because we forget about safety. Everyone, taking an aircraft, going at 40,000 foot, minus 51 degrees outside, no pressure, and having a cappuccino, everyone feels it's natural. It's not natural, There is a lot of safety parameters that has to be followed, and I believe safety should be first. And aviation of the future should be, airline of the future should be number one, again, safety. And how we get to safety and the safest way possible. This will involve as well manufacturers. We have seen, unfortunately, in Ethiopia what happened. So there should be a consensus from all of us. The aviation of your future should be less risky for everyone, including the passenger. Now, we forgot about, and I will go to the connectivity. At the end of the day, if we want to increase connectivity between African countries, we need first to have economical exchange between those countries. And as has been highlighted this morning, fuel in Africa is 35% more expensive. How could we make it affordable to the people? So if we look at why we don't have enough traffic, I think we have to ask ourselves the first question: why people are not traveling? Probably they don't know why and what they have to go, where to go. There is no activity. Secondly, I think the propensity to spend on air travel, probably it's too expensive. I believe it's too expensive. So then IATA DG highlighted about the taxes. We are overtaxed. So how can we make it affordable to the people? And to bring connectivity is fine, but if you have thin traffic, no traffic, why would you open? Why would you why would you bring connectivity if there is no demand for connectivity? But I believe where we have density of population, this is what we have been observing between South Africa and Mauritius in terms of traffic density. We feel that this is the right time because we operate twice daily, South African Airways operating a long-haul aircraft to Mauritius and ourselves operating as well the A350 there, that there is really a demand, and we can stimulate the demand even further by going in a better relationship compared to a codeshare. Why not a joint venture? This is what we are working on.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question is for Amal. Why don't African airlines enter into commercial cooperation agreements, whether in the form of code share arrangements, alliances, or otherwise, on a more extensive basis than currently exists in Africa?
Merci pour la question. Même si je n'ai pas eu le temps d'écouter la traduction, je pense que j'ai bien saisi la pertinente question. Mais permettez-moi d'abord, avant de commencer, comme l'occasion se présente, de remercier ou de présenter mes vifs remerciements aux autorités mauriciennes et à la compagnie Air Mauritius pour leur accueil très chaleureux dans ce cadre paradisiaque. Remercier aussi le secrétaire général de l'AFRAA avec toute son équipe pour leur organisation remarquable, tous mes collègues CEO ici présents d'avoir animé avec moi ce panel, et vous remercier aussi pour le choix des questions pertinents. Généralement, dans ce type d'assemblée, on se limite à une lecture, à une vision macro de la situation du secteur aérien de manière générale et en Afrique en particulier. Et là, vous avez voulu, par ces questions, aller vraiment faire un zoom sur l'état réel des compagnies africaines. Pour le cas de la Mauritania Airlines, je me considère encore en phase de mise en place. Comme l'a dit mon collègue de Air Sénégal, la phase de mise en place peut prendre parfois quelques années, ce qui est en l'occurrence pour nous 7 à 8 ans d'exploitation. Donc les choix stratégiques ont commencé dès le départ, dès la mise en place initiale, même en matière de structuration, puisqu'on a tendance généralement à copier, et particulièrement en Afrique, à copier des modèles existants sans pour autant se soucier de leur compatibilité avec notre réalité. Donc là, à la Mauritanie Airlines, dès la mise en place, on a opté vraiment pour une structure certes compacte, mais en phase avec notre réalité aussi. Ensuite vient le choix de la flotte. Là aussi, il fallait faire un effort. Deux facteurs principaux. Le premier, c'est les types d'appareils qui sont en exploitation dans la région. Et en plus de ça, le choix aussi de type d'exploitation qu'on va en faire après, qui est, dans notre cas, des vols courts et à multiples étapes. Tout ça pour vous dire que la Mauritania Airlines vit les mêmes difficultés que rencontrent les autres compagnies. Autant vous dire que c'est vraiment un concentré de difficultés qui ne sont pas insurmontables, sinon je ne serais pas là aujourd'hui. Mais en plus de ça, et là je switch systématiquement sur votre question, il est limite, on ne peut pas envisager d'exister et d'évoluer dans un climat ultra concurrentiel comme le nôtre sans avoir le support et l'échange et l'interconnectivité qu'il faut entre les compagnies aériennes. Et je parle ici des compagnies aériennes africaines. Donc je pense qu'aujourd'hui, sur notre continent, une évolution démographique combinée à une croissance économique, il est bien sûr, je dis évident que demain la demande va exploser et que les compagnies africaines doivent être prêtes à répondre à cette demande. Aujourd'hui, un marché qui est le nôtre, c'est plus les compagnies étrangères